there are some lights on the horizon. There's a campaign that was launched a few years ago called 1,000 Huts. Huts can now get planning consent. As I understand it, there are some huts being planned in Fife. How confident are you that we're going to, as it were, pick up where the pioneers left off in the 1930s with their youth hostels and their socialist holiday camps and their hutting and their cycling, but which was all kind of whittled away, as it were. How confident are you going to be able to pick up from there, reflect, of course, on all the wonderful outdoor activities that have been over the summer and the keenness that people have to visit the countryside? How confident are you that we're going to be able to pick up all that and turn the countryside into a more kind of people-friendly place where folk can anticipate being able to leave on a Friday night from Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, and get out into the countryside and have the kind of peace and enjoyment that you had in your own bothy those years ago? You confident?
No. And I mean, I'm at some odds with some of the rest of the folk in the 1,000 Huts campaign. And I know this sounds bad, but it's that I think we need absolutely to shift a mountain on this at the moment. And you'll correct me if I get this wrong, but you know, people, if small woodlands come up, they're snaffled up immediately because they are a way of offsetting inheritance tax, right?
Yes.
The other forests are absolutely impenetrable. So apart from very, very benevolent landowners, and in fact, eccentric benevolent landowners are the only reason there are any huts in Scotland. There's two things all the hutting sites from the interwar period have in common. One is quite eccentric landowners. Two is pretty dogged punters. Three, sorry, I'm something like a Monty Python sketch. And the other is rubbish land. Nearly all of them are on pretty marginal land. There's plenty of other places like that, but that is probably not enough to create a revolution or even a huge expansion. And it needs a lot of face-to-face conversation. Now that's what is happening in Fife. Falkland has got huts. The tail end of the book has got many pictures of them, and I'm seeing some folk on the chat thing that you know, are from that area. There's also been huge efforts by Reforesting Scotland and the 1,000 Huts campaign to talk to Forestry Commission Scotland, who have, after 2 years of discussion, made a small area in Salon available in woodland there. But I mean, I think I did a calculation in the book at the number of sites that long 2-year period managed to release, I think was less than 20. At that rate, it's going to take us 600 years to get to the numbers that Norway has. So
Absolutely. Yes.
So basically, it's land reform. It's land reform. It's things like councils deciding if they've got property, wooded property, that they could turn that into hutting. It's starting a debate because at the moment, I think everyone is terrified of people on the land. And
but if the government had the determination, we have 1.6 million acres of land owned by Scottish ministers, largely afforested, many wonderful parts of the country. We could actually do this. It's not that we don't have that land. We do. So with the political will, this would be possible.
Yeah, but when you're coming back to ask you, the way you framed that question was quite important because you're creating a parallel between that interwar period and now. Well, what the book also really looks at is the extraordinary socialist movements that were on the go, that were every day, especially in the west of Scotland, that again, very few people have even heard of. Socialist Sunday schools. William Ferris was in them. And there was the epicenter in the whole of Britain was the west of Scotland. Murray, his son, recalls hearing Paul Robeson, the black communist singer, in Queen's Park in 1963, singing Loch Lomond in Queen's Park to an assembly that was absolutely filling the park simply with Socialist Sunday School banners and people. That's how many there was in 1963. And again, there's nothing about them. So people don't come out of nowhere. That's what I'm saying. They can, but what these guys, what I think is really important to see is that in both sides of the North Sea at that time, in the wake of war, there was socialist movements on the go that were actually separately organizing workers. There was huge efforts put into the life beyond the workplace. And that was what was driving people forward, in the case of Norway, to put a lot of this stuff into legislation. So have we got that now? I don't know that, I don't know that there's any of that going on, which is why this seems so important to me.